right, it is that time once again. Brief hiatus, the golf off season. We are back here at Awesemo.com, PGA DFS live before lock. I am Ben Rasa. That is Eric Lindquist. We are back for another year of golf. Feels like just yesterday that we were talking about this because it's true. Eric, I know you got a jump start. You got to do a show yesterday. I am coming in fresh. I've been in the football streets. How are you, my friend? I know you're excited to talk more golf this season.
I'm big time. I mean, this is my sport. This is what I do. I play the golf, and then golf PGA DFS. It's a natural fit. And, I've been in the NFL streets and then the MLB streets, just trying to keep the hustle alive here. But it was nice to have 1 week off. I just decided to go to Italy during our PGA week off because why not? So I was there last week for my best friend's wedding, officiating that. And had a pretty good week one NFL, had a bank on an MLB GPP. So that means PGA, obviously, nothing can possibly go wrong this week.
Well, we're going to test that theory immediately. But before we dive into that, I do want to say our friends at Monkey Knife Fight sponsoring this show, they've been with us the whole way. We appreciate them. If you haven't gone over there, they're player prop based contests, super easy to play, not a huge time commitment. And they've got every sport available, MLB, NBA, obviously NFL, and PGA, of course. Get it started. Head over to monkeyknifefight.com. Choose what game you want to play, your contest type, your buy-in, everything that you're going to do on a normal site. And even better, instant first match deposit bonus of up to $100 when you sign up with that promo code Awesemo. Eric, I'm going to throw a couple at you right now. They have so many different formats that I love. One is you're going over-under with birdies. They've got Rahm at 19.5. And we're going to talk about his Q tag.
Oh God.
If he doesn't play, I believe it's a void, but if he does play, I think that he's going to have 16 opportunities just on the par fives. I think he's going to rack up a lot of birdies this week. I'm going to take the over there. What say you about Rahm in that format?
That's a joke. Have you seen the top 5 and top 10 odds for Jon Rahm this week?
It's a mortal lock. I mean, yeah, he's like, he's getting into the Tiger, like, will he win or not category.
I mean, he's better than like Joker to win the US Open, which again, if you bet that at -120 with me, sad times, whoopsie. Season. Oh my God. I just could not even with that match, but I definitely think Jon Rahm over 19.5, click that button many times over in the event that he's good to go.
No doubt. The other things they have is kind of two golfers matched up who will score better, who will score more birdies. They got Max Homa against Tringale. I'm going to go to Max Homa there. And when we get into some of these players, I will reiterate why. But I just definitely wanted to take the time at the top of the show to talk about Monkey Knife Fight. Really quality stuff there. But we're going to start as we always do, weather and withdraws. I don't see a ton. We're in Napa. It's going to be beautiful. Withdraws? I mean, I don't see anything yet, but maybe the best player in the world is going to withdraw. He didn't play in the Pro-Am. Chad, I'll tell you this much. I'm not really concerned about it. I think if there is something, we'll know. This is just it's not a hot take. I feel like if there is something, we'll know about it before lock. So I'm not too worried about this. Are you?
I would be a lot less worried if there wasn't the Ryder Cup next week. I will say that. The Ryder Cup is next week. And so I'm concerned. Like, I think I might be a little bit more concerned than you are. I'm great. I live out here on the West Coast. So, I mean, the lock time, I mean, it'll just be like I'm waking up for a regular tea time myself to be able to check my lineups. But, I mean, that is my major concern, is that if there's any kind of thing going on with him whatsoever, I got to assume he's getting paid to play in this golf tournament already. So I'm sure he wants to take home a nice little check there. Hard to believe that he's not just like one of the most massive favorites you'll have in any golf tournament for the next 4 or 5 years, just in terms of how this sets up for him. I mean, he's basically a senior playing against a bunch of middle schoolers on a basketball floor or something. I mean, that's kind of the equivalent of him in this spot. So like, I'm concerned purely because of the Ryder Cup. If there wasn't that impending next week, I think you'd probably give it a go here. But just because of that, I'm on high alert.
So I get that, and that totally makes sense. Two things. One, he's here. Like, he didn't have to play in this. So There is that. I just feel like with these things, though, if there is a problem, we'll know about it. I feel like it's pretty unlikely that if he doesn't give it a go, I feel like we will wake up to and this is in California, so we're going to have some time, a Jon Rahm is withdrawn style. And I think that Okay, then we'll react accordingly. I'm going to plan is that he's fine. I don't think this is a big deal right now. But of course, I think we would both agree you got to stay on top of the news tomorrow morning because something clearly could break.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that we'll probably know here. He's not going to wake up, give it a go on the range, and it's not a Dustin Johnson at the Masters kind of situation where he needs to test it out. You're gonna know immediately whether or not he's good to go. So I'm at least in agreement there. That all being said, Jon Rahm's my highest owned golfer this week, regardless. So yay, good times.
I mean, he's pushing upwards of 40%.
And he should be.
In our ownership, he should be. So I get it. I don't think this news is going to make that. I think a lot of people are going to say, is everybody else going to go off Rahm? And then nobody is. Like, if we get no word, I still think he'll be the highest owned player on the slate.
I disagree with you. It depends on the field size. I think it 100 depends, like the $5. Like, I think there might be sharp enough fields like in the mini max or in other things like this. I think the casual player comes in and, we had 1 week off, and how many times do you see a Q tag next to a golfer? Zero, legitimately zero. Like we never see a Q tag next to him. So hand build people are going to come in and they're going to be like, oh, well, Jon Rahm, he's 12-1. You might not like your builds with it, whatever else. So for me, it's just kind of increase my exposure. I think as you get to the sharper fields, as you get to like, the $200 single entries, you're getting some of these other contests with smaller fields. I doubt it's going to have much influence as long as he's good to go and we get that news. But I got to think in this smaller stuff, people don't like building the night before with a Q tag next to a name.
That's a very good point. The Q tag does change some things. I still think very casual people, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, I only know 3 or 4 guys in this field and Jon Rahm is one of them. But that kind of brings us to, listen, it's a new season here. We've got new players. We've got new names. We've got a quick turnaround. So what I really wanted to ask you was a couple like philosophical questions before we dive into the course and we dive into the top tier and all that. With a new season here, do you look at recent form being like the tour, the tail end of the season where it was non-cuts, best players in the world? Or do you say everybody's in a clean slate and this is a time for a hard reset?
No, yeah, I'm still looking at recent form. I mean, 1 week off and everybody just got done with the Corn Ferry Tour Championship and it's all pretty recent. I think that we can pull a lot from it. I think that looking at my ownerships, I really hope that there's something to draw from some of the recent form. We've got new guys, just to throw out a couple. I mean, just as we're kind of leading into it, a guy like Taylor Moore. Nobody's ever heard of Taylor Moore. Steven Jagger. I doubt many people have played a Steven Jagger in their life. They probably think moves like Jagger. It's just it's a easy name to click on for me, but it might be uncomfortable for other people. So we're going to be looking at plays like that. These are the new guys. Shahith Theegala, somebody that, I'm very familiar with here in Southern California. I think he's been around at least the block enough times. Oh, you look really uncomfortable about that one for sure.
Theegala is not I'm interested. I'm excited to talk about it, but there's some of these guys have been in the fields before, and with some haven't had much success just yet.
But also they've been in some fields where they weren't necessarily even like mid-tier players in those fields. And now they're automatically increased in terms of cut equity. They're increased in terms of win equity. Not if Jon Rahm tees it up, but still, I'm just saying that like legitimately, these guys are going to be players you're clicking on a lot. I have a feeling that we're going to be clicking on, I haven't looked at the pro plays yet. You should all be checking out the pro plays, but I got a feeling that we're going to be on a couple of the same guys, and then we're probably going to be deviating pretty sharply with our value.
Yeah, I mean, some of these guys, the one thing I like about golf is unless they're brand new, we've seen some of these guys, like Steven Jaeger. He has a 58. That's a little known fact. And 2, this is a guy that's got some starts on the PGA Tour, and then he was, I believe, relegated, and now he's back. So I like to see that. We got like Mullinax back, a lot of guys like that.
Easiest dude to cheer for in the world, by the way, after getting drilled in the head by a golf ball.
That's one of the craziest, like, freakish stories I've ever heard. But yeah, we got some names here, and listen, the reality of the situation is Jon Rahm most likely not going to win this tournament, even though he's a massive favorite in the golf world. He's still not 50% or more to win the tournament. I know it's insane that he's almost there in some fields, but it's still more likely than not someone else is going to take it down. But let's talk about Silverado. It's got a new name, by the way. How do you pronounce this tournamen's name? That's on you.
I mean, it's Fortinet.
Fortinet. I'm going
Fortinet. So it's the Leonard Fortinet Championship.
Smart. Okay. Well, the good news is that Silverado still. We've seen this course a million times. We know this course. It's easy. It's got gettable par fives, one short par four. There's going to be streaks. There's going to be bonuses. What do you see? We've got a good profile of what kind of player can win here.
So yeah, I'm looking at strokes gained approach. I'm looking at putting. I'm looking at short game. I'm looking at a lot of those things. So we've got over under our good friend there in the chat hanging out. Good to see you, Cam Champ. For me, like driving strokes gained off the tee is probably one of the least important things for me this week. I'm not going crazy with it. Are you going crazy with it this week?
I definitely like it more than you do.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like the Cam Champ profile of really being aggressive off the tee and then converting, that's the key.
Right, there you go. That's for me, birdie conversion and just making it happen.
No doubt. But when I look at guys that have had a lot of success here, and I am cherry picking a little bit, but like Kevin Tway won in 2019. Higgs was runner-up last year. Steele was a back-to-back winner. And Cameron Champ is a winner. Those are guys that really sometimes can dismantle courses off the tee. Now, just to speak to the other side of this, guys like Ryan Moore have a runner-up here. Sneds, guys who are more technical. Stuart Sink, Hadwin. These are putters. These are guys that do it differently. But I do think there's opportunities to take apart the par fives, to be aggressive off the tee. I'm going to definitely build and look to some off the tee type things when trying to construct this week.
All right. Well, then that's fair enough. For me, it's just lesser than what everybody else in the field is doing. I'm trying to group it a little bit differently because, John Rahm going to be a large part of what I'm doing and trying to build a little bit accordingly to some other skill sets. For me, the guy like Cam Champ, there's just so many red flags that I have for some of these 9K guys on the bottom end of 9K that for me, it's kind of an avoid, go Rahm, play 8K dudes, move on with my day.
Well, let's talk about that. So we go to the top tier. We've got John Rahm. He's broke the ceiling, by the way, on DraftKings. Didn't know you could get over 12,000. Not going to lie. He's only $100 more, though, so I don't know exactly what he did to the algorithm. He's 12,100. Decky's 11K. Webb and Zalatoris next, and then Kevin Knott, flat 10. We know everyone wants to play Rahm. Does that mean that all these other guys are going to get lost, per se, or do people double up?
It's going to be hard to double up in the 10K range. If I am doubling up and I have a couple lineups going that direction, it's going to be a lot of Webb, 10-8. That's still doable, but man, it becomes really bleak. You're under 7K left per player. And yeah, it gets really gross. For me, it's more Rahm 8K range and trying to go that direction, having one or two from that 8K range, upper eights. And that seems a little bit more doable. But if you're trying to get different here, of course, Hideki and Webb Simpson and Will Zalatoris, specifically Hideki and Webb, can go out and win this golf tournament. Nobody would be shocked by such things happening. But I think the number of times that happens compared to the number of times that John Rahm goes out and just burns you if you don't play him is much higher. So for me, I'm going to the Rahm side of it. I just think it's such a ridiculous thing. We're seeing minus 330 for him to top 10. And I had this conversation with Jason, and I'm going to ask you the same question. If I told you John Rahm finished 8th, would you lock him in right now?
So in a field like this, normally I would say no. But in a field like this, I'd be closer to saying yes, because the win equity is so flat dispersed that you're going to be able, I talk about this a lot, and I need to find a better way to explain it. But really with certain tournaments, I think that your salaries are correlated to your placement points in the sense that who's going to do the heavy lifting on your team. In a field like this, that's not the case. Your pay down option might win the tournament. And then in that case, Rahm's 8th is going to be great. You're locking in some placement points. He did his part, and some of these randos sucked up the top end win equity. Whereas in some other fields, WGCs and stuff, that's really not the case. So of course, if Decky wins the tournament, would you take Rahm 8th? No, because you're going to be in massive, massive trouble. But, I know exactly what you're saying there. And I think in a field like this, if Rahm has even a remotely good showing, there's still a chance that he's a focal point of really good lineups. That's
exactly kind of what I'm getting at. And then, the Vegas odds, I understand that they're inflated to kind of keep people away from betting such things like this. This is not true odds for him. He is not minus 300 to finish top 10. So I understand that, but what would he be? Minus 200 sounds about appropriate, minus 250 in this spot. So I still feel like the number of times that he could go out and burn you is much higher compared to what his ownership is at right now. So rather than trying to get cute and get like a ton of exposure to everybody else in the 10K range, give me Rahm and I'll just take my chances there.
That's fair. I'll say this, contest selection, if you're in a single entry or something like that, he could push upwards of 50%, especially if we get word that he's good to go. I don't mind rolling the dice with someone else in something like that because it's still golf. The Ryder Cup is next week. He just might not have it. We've seen that time and time again in many golfers over the years. So there are no lock button. It's not like the NBA. Just for some new people who may be playing PGA DFS for the first time, it's still a high variance sport. But I'm with you. Rahm is the clear starting point. Let's remove him for a second. Out of the next, say, 5 to 10 guys, where would you look? I'll say from Cameron Champ all the way up to Decky.
Okay, well, it's not Cameron Champ. I mean, I think I've made that pretty clear that I'm not going to be playing that cat. Moving my way up, Kevin Na. I mean, he was my hot take. I bet him top 5, top 10. Tell you what, betting has been really kind to me, and the DFS has not been as kind to me. But Kevin Na, 10K. I just don't think people are giving him enough respect for his recent form and his ability on something like this to just go low in Sony Open type stuff, John Deere type stuff here. Starting with that John Deere tournament, second, 23rd, second, 17, third, played fantastic at the Tour Championship. And again, it was nice to be invested in there. And I'm not saying that he's going to just continue rolling that over into a third, but I just think his ability to go out and just take it deep in some of these scoring fests. I mean, we've seen it time and time again from him. Best short game on planet Earth. The guy is getting up and down out of trash cans on the daily. That's kind of a nice thing at 10K to get to. I think I'm probably a little bit over on him. He's probably the only guy at the 10K range that I'm really like over on. I like Webb Simpson. I just think it's hard to pair him with Rahm, with how much Rahm I'm getting to, but a little bit more palatable with some of my lineups going Rahm, Na, and then going elsewhere.
No problem with Na. Obviously, he's not getting it done off the tee. Elite irons, elite putter. Win equity is always higher with Kevin. Kevin Na every year. He has a lot of tournaments where he's a no-show, and he has a lot of tournaments where he just wins relative to his talent. Guy's a winner, and you got to respect that. I think HV3 is kind of a continuation of what I was doing late in the season, which was only like a month ago. I'm going to continue to buy with him. I really thought he was on the cusp, and he showed some form. He could never string it together, but he was 11th at the Northern Trust, 12th at the BMW, positive with the irons. His putter is fluky at best, but he's still a well-rounded player. And in this field, he is towards the top of just best players available.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he is. For me, it's an ownership thing. He is, 20%. He's the highest owned guy from that grouping that you're talking about, starting at Hideki, moving all the way down to Frick. Mito Pereira is the next highest owned dude where you start getting above 20% there. So ownership wise, I don't like it. I think he's a good play. I can't play everybody, therefore I'm lighter. But if you made your stand Varner here, I completely understand it.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think pairing Rahm and Varner could be problematic unless you've got some leverage. Looking at the ownership, and this is why it could be so important, Mark Leishman is getting virtually no ownership relative to the 9K range. We have him sub 5%. Clearly, the form leaves something to be desired, but this is a good player long term. Do you just say, you know what, I'm going to blindly back him here just because nobody else is?
Yeah, so this is maybe the narrative that I'm trying to draw about this golf tournament, why I'm playing guys who just suck off the tee, because I have Mark Leishman as well. I think that he's a nice play, a nice piece to put into the middle of it too. If we get news that Rahm's not going to be out, I mean, he's never been good off the tee. Mark Leishman just kind of does whatever, he puts it out there. But then an elite iron player, he can really spike it on certain weeks. And anytime he does spike it, he pretty much is putting himself into the hunt. We've seen that time and time again here. And then his putting. I mean, he is a fantastic putter. Hasn't been as good here. Northern Trust BMW was a little sloppy, but outside of it, we see so many putting spiked weeks of 3, 4, 5 strokes gained putting. I have no concerns that at 9,500, if he got himself going, there's really no stopping it. I think he could be one of the guys that is really sneaking. Considering he's under 5%, there's like no opportunity cost there.
Yeah. High miscut equity relative to the range, totally. But you just have to live with that. You mentioned his spike putting. The guy loses strokes putting, often. He's not an elite putter by any stretch. In the last, going back the whole season, so all of 2021, anytime he gained strokes putting, he gained at least 2 in the tournament. That's ridiculous. he has basically no flat putting performances. He either doesn't have it, and when he does, he gains several strokes at minimum. That is what you want, because if you get it right, big time upside. So I think it's a great call by you.
Okay, well, go me.
Go. Now, if he gets cut, it's also your fault. So remember
Bad
that.
Me. Bad me.
All right, let's do it. Before we get to what is the best segment on the show, Make the Cut, I do want to tell people, if you haven't gotten inside the ropes, we've got so many good passes. And you can get an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95 with everything. Full access to our premium content, tools, player projections, ownership projections, premium Slack, all that good stuff. You can use the promo code PGA Live before lock, all one word, all caps. You're going to get 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. No reason not to try that out. If you are a hardcore golf person, you say, that's all I want. Okay, well, we've got something for you as well. We have weekly PGA passes for $3.95. No reason, again, not to try it. So we've got a package for you no matter what you want to do, whether you're signing up for the year, trying it out for the week, getting every tour, one sport. Just go to awesemo.com/join, find the package that's right for you, and use that promo code. No reason to not save some money while you do it. All right, here we go, Eric. You know the drill. It's time. Actually, it's time for me to ask for some likes to get the season off right. I almost forgot to do that. I'm going to do that, and then it's time for Make the Cut. Here we go. I'm going to give you some names. You're going to tell me who is going to be watching the Ryder Cup, getting prepared, and who is going to be hoisting the trophy and relaxing while they watch the Ryder Cup. Let's start to some of these guys at the top. You mentioned HV3, very popular. You don't like Cameron Champ. And then my boy, Emiliano Grillo. Can he get his season off on the right foot?
I really hope so. I mean,
yeah,
this is the range I'm just like living in. I'm going Grillo. I'm playing Hoffman. I'm playing McNeely, playing gobs of McNeely. But Emiliano Grillo, we all know the drill. Everybody be on high alert. There's a lot of issues that can exist there. There's also a ton of upside there, and I think it's a little bit mitigated considering everybody seems to be going up into the 9K range, which I'm just not that enamored with on the bottom end outside of Varner, but I think the ownership is just there where I don't want to be there. Him and Champ, just kind of my big, strong stances against, which, one feels much more comfortable than the other for me. But Grillo, hard to get away at 12% ownership. The upside is just immense there at that number, and I'm really kind of in the same camp as you, where it's like this guy, anytime he shows up on a golf tournament, it feels like an auto click because we know how good the irons can be. And the irons haven't been like crazy positive. And I know we had talked a couple weeks back where that was kind of my major issue, is the guy was gaining 6, 7, 8 strokes gain approach. And then all of a sudden it becomes like a flat 1. Well, that's problematic because he's not a good chipper, definitely not a good putter. And the putter will start bouncing back time here and there. It's never going to be good, but it's always going to have these spiked weeks, and you just kind of hope that this is the week for that.
Yeah, Grillo found something at one point last year with the putter. Since then, though, he's lost in 6 straight around the green and with the putter. That's a recipe for disaster. Needs to be better, and I think he will. He has a rare distinction. He's won this tournament before, and he lost strokes putting the week he did it. So that's hard
Fantastic.
to do. I think he's fine. You could go with a pure ball striking lineup. I think it's probably a little thin to start with him. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Well, no. I disagree. So okay. I think you can start in this upper 8s, and you can go Grillo, McNeely, Homa, if you want to play him in that grouping. Varner, even at 9,100, I guess you could start with, and I'll just kind of group him together with those guys. Okay. But I mean, if you're not going to be playing Rahm, I don't think just avoiding the 10K range is the worst thing that you could possibly do, especially considering Simpson, Zalatoris, we haven't seen a ton out of those first 2. Kevin Na is the best recent form out of those 3. So, for me, I'm happy starting in that upper 8s. For me also, and this is the other thing that I wish I could quantify or explain a little bit better, but it's something I was thinking about a lot yesterday and then building lineups today. But I think Jon Rahm, as good of a play as he is, if you were 13-5, I think this would be more of a conversation where he would be priced out of it. But the opportunity cost of like what else you're packaging Jon Rahm with is the question. Like there's some definite drop off that you're going to get in the quality of player on the back end. And I believe it was Jason that threw out the stat that 20 players from 7K or under ended up scoring 90 plus DraftKings points in this event last season out of like the 29 players to do it. You're talking about an easier golf course. It brings a lot of the field into play. This isn't a challenging golf course by any means, but I'm also going to say that like I would rather pair a bunch of really good players together and take my shots going up against Jon Rahm. And I think having 3 or 4 guys from this range that could all finish top 10, even if you didn't end up with like a Jon Rahm who finishes 4th or 5th, you might be able to pass the back end of that lineup that you had with Rahm.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of spoke to it. When you have such a random tournament at the bottom like that and guys come out of nowhere, it helps Rahm a lot because you can find cheapies that can get in the mix. There's no doubt. I don't mind the balance build. I still think I more often than not would want someone in the 9s at Griot as my second man, but I'm with you. The combination of Homa, Maverick, I like those guys a lot. Those are names that I definitely could get on board with. Let's talk about Maverick a little bit. Steven Yeager is there. Sneds is there. This is that range kind of. You're not going to be starting with these guys. Let's be realistic, but they could be a second guy from Rahm. They could be a third guy in a balance build. What do you make of the mid 8K range?
Yeah, so we talked about Maverick. I mean, Maverick's kind of he's my boy is probably the right way of saying it. I think we've both been playing him a little bit more than the average DFS player there. Rocket Mortgage, John Deere, 3M, all finished top 20, 21st or better in each one of those. Northern Trust BMW fell off the planet there. The BMW, I said it yesterday. I think you were just kind of getting lapped by the field, and your data is going to look really, really bad there if you didn't putt well, just because of how many birdies and how many guys were just going crazy, crazy low in that event. So I'm just going to write it off and kind of move on. Everything else looks positive. I mean, that's now 6 consecutive tournaments if you throw out the BMW, where he's just gaining strokes all over the place, tee to green. So I feel pretty positive that that portion is a plus, considering I know how good of a putter he is. I feel really good about Maverick there. The rest of these guys, just there's no ownership. I'm not even sure what I want to do, even right now, with guys like Brendan Todd, Brandt Snedeker. It's weird to see, mid 8 guys underneath 3%, but you're just not able to fit them very easily. It's uncomfortable to pair them with Jon Rahm, but maybe that's the reason that you do it. I think Steven Yeager is probably my favorite of the grouping, and that's so weird to say considering nobody knows who he is, but he's a short game extraordinaire, a guy who amongst this field in his limited sample size here on tour, second among strokes gained around the green. That's kind of his game, is just getting the ball in the hole. I think in a scoring fest that could bode well.
I mean, I do want to say more on the philosophical side, because I think we have to talk about that a little here. Thomas, welcome to Team Awesemo. Appreciate you. I think that even though I agree that recent form is relevant, you have to keep in mind just the mindset and what's going on. You're playing against the best players in the world as you wind down in the FedEx Cup. And then you turn the page to a new season. And every year, at least for me, there is 1 or 2 guys that make it to Eastlake. And I say, what did they do? And what they did was they dominated the swing season. Guys take advantage of these reps when the big names are doing other things. And I think you're going to see a lot of that here. So I don't think it's crazy to go to guys that don't have a ton of experience, ton of resumes, with really strong results. So I don't mind that. And that kind of leads me into 2 guys at flat 8. Mito Pereira, who kind of burst on the scene late, was really good in the Olympics. He's the next Chilean guy. And then Taylor Gooch is there. Those are 2 guys that I think are going to be pretty popular targets, but for good reason.
Yeah, I love both. And, I don't love the ownership on Mito. I think that's your easy knock on him. But Mito, what an absolute stud that he's been. I mean, he could have been, he almost backdoored a bronze medal there at the Olympics. And, he's somebody T5, T6 here after he got his automatic promotion. I like Mito a lot. I wish the ownership wasn't there. I'm basically at the field there, and I think I'm okay with that. I am over on Taylor Gooch. I'm glad that you're kind of speaking to him as well. 8K, too low of a price for a guy that has definitely shown some promise here.
No doubt. And he's got plenty of experience. Very, very good with the irons, can get crazy hot. I know a lot of people look to him in kind of like the first round leader markets, things of that nature. I can get down with that. Good question from chat. And it kind of leads me into the next name here. We got to talk about Doug Ghim. Doug Ghim is a guy I think a lot of people, rightfully so, are saying, here's a guy that could win during swing season. He's got some experience. He showed some flashes. He's going to be very popular. I think he's cash viable. Where do you rank him in terms of Gooch, Mito, Doug Ghim? I mean, is he a priority or is he just in the portfolio?
He's behind all of them for me.
Wow. Okay.
I don't love this. I mean, we saw the 3M implosion. We saw Wyndham implosion. Northern Trust finished 31st, didn't move on. Like, for me, I get it with Doug Gim because there are these flashes that you get. I know for me, the most vivid one is the Players, where the guy put himself in contention, shot like 77 or something ridiculous, played so bad that final day, and, could have had a really nice tournament and changed his entire outlook of his season. Part of it is that you can't play everybody. And there's some of these chalk dudes that I just think that there's a lot of missed cut equity for him that doesn't necessarily exist with a Gooch. And a Mito Pereira, I just think has a ton of upside and a ton of game. Fifth Barbasol, sixth 3M. I mean, we've seen some like real top 5, top 10, you need him in your lineup kind of performances. And I don't really think we've seen that from Doug Gim. I don't feel like I'm giving up a ton. I mean, we had one top 15 here for the season. The Zurich, I'm going to throw that out, 2-man event. So yeah, one top 15. And I know that this isn't the same kind of field, but I just think if he was coming in much lower owned, I would have some interest. But at 17.5%, I would rather take that ownership and put it elsewhere.
I like him more than you. And I think it goes back to the top of the show where we're differing. And this is why this is very interesting, good discussion. Off the tee, Gim has been really strong even throughout his struggles. He's gained strokes off the tee basically automatically, only missed twice in 2021. I'm looking at that. I think you're probably looking more at the approach numbers, which he's lost in 4 of 5, and that's what's really held him back. So I'm saying that he can mask it off the tee. You're saying maybe these pure ball strikers like Taylor Gooch and those guys kind of ahead of him. So I think that's really, really interesting. Appreciate the super chat from Charlie. I don't even know what that means. I assume it has to do with Kevin Stadler. You boy. But,
free money for you. That is exactly what it is. The first letter of each word there.
There you go. Look at that. I cracked the code. I've been doing Sudokus, crosswords, a long enough time to decipher that. There we go. All right. Moving down, we start to get to some names that I'm honestly a little unfamiliar with. And that's kind of a question. I mean, where do you rank it? I know it's somewhat of a loaded question. Chat was asking about guys, that we really haven't seen. Chad Ramey and some of these other Korn Ferry guys who have been tearing it up. But this is the big leagues now. How do you incorporate recent form against lesser competition?
For me, if you're finishing top 5 in some of these events coming down the stretch, you're doing some things really, really well. For me, that becomes like a Taylor Moore, who really finished out the season strong over there as well. A lot of these guys that just nobody knows about. And it's really kind of I think this is why I do well in the swing season. And I think that these are some of my best DFS tournaments, is that I'm at least familiar with the Woos and the Hardy and Svensson and Jaeger and Thigala and these other dudes that other people might not be. And I'm willing to roll the dice on some of them. We see them play really well out of the gate. I think the pressure is also off from not having to chase your card. You at least have some status. You're at least going to be locked into playing some tournaments. And as you said, guys are going to be able to just find a way to kind of move it in the same way that people are surprising to get into the Tour Championship at the end of the year. I think it's also surprising some of the guys who can get into the top 5, top 10 in some of these swing events. And I think that really kind of starts. We've seen it time and time again where these guys come from the Korn Ferry Tour and they are ready to win right away, not just kind of compete or kind of get by. So I'm willing to take more shots than most people are. I think the right guys are probably gaining the most ownership, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, other than Thigala, who I'm willing to go over the 4% of, Aaron Rai is 6.1%. At least he's a proven commodity, and we've seen him play in some massive events like the Open Championship, stuff like that, where it's just like, whoa, okay, so he's a player and I'm getting him at a discount and nobody's rostering him. Awesome. I can kind of lock him in. But then you get the Taylor Pendrith, you get, Joseph Bramlett, you get some of these unknown dudes, and they're all garnering just as much, maybe even a little bit more ownership. That's when I start to say, all right, I'll go Aaron Rai.
Yeah, there's a game theory element to it, no doubt about it. And that's why our tools are so important, to be honest. The ownership, the pro plays, you can put it all together. And, some of these guys, they're going to check some boxes. They're going to have glaring red flags and others. Friend of the show, Tokyo Swan, Sepp Straka, first round leader. I respect that. He's someone who can get crazy hot in this range. But the other thing I want to point out, this field, it is kind of like a pseudo Korn Ferry Tour event. It's not that much stronger than what these guys have seen. So they can definitely play and get in the mix. Let's keep working down, though. Most of these guys are still, Luke List is down here at 7,100. You've got JT Poston at 7,200. Then you got a guy, he's more on the unknown, Adam Svensson, who we haven't seen in a couple years. He got some starts back in the day, 2019. What do you do here? To me, I tend to go with, the Luke Lists of the world, who I've at least seen murder my lineups, and not the guy that I don't know about.
Well, at least, for me, the thing is he's 10.7%. So do you want to get murdered by the guy that you absolutely know is going to probably murder you, or do you want to kind of go elsewhere? For me, what was nuts was earlier in the week, Hank Labiota was carrying a bunch of ownership. It looks like that's kind of tempered off to like 6%. Thank God. A guy that just rode a hot putter into the sunset and made stuff happen there for a while, made me almost break my putter that's sitting behind me because he just kept getting in the mix for no reason whatsoever. But Luke List at least has some pure ball striking form and, has shown some upside even this summer. And I'm willing to, in a smaller field like this, I think Luke List is probably fine, even around 10%. That's a pretty negligible number, difference between like 7 and 10% there. I just don't want to get in a habit of like clicking all those guys that are 10%, 10%, and going that way. So Luke List, as long as you're pairing him with another, low owned guy in some of these big field events, no problem adding him in.
Yeah, it's always a totality. You can't play Rahm and Varner and List and then 3 other guys that are going to be somewhat logical. That's just not going to work in large field tournaments. You got to be creative. But I think in its own, there are so many guys with a full field here. When we look that are 1%, 2%, you're going to leverage really quickly with a couple of them. So you can be very conservative. And then you throw in you mentioned Thigala. Poston's not going to be popular at all. Russell Knox is 2% projected right now. I got to ask you about one guy before we get down to the real cheapies, though. I bet this guy 140 to 1, just a taste. And it was on our PGA Contenders video, me and Josh, which you can check out on Awesemo Odds, which if you haven't subscribed, now is the time. YouTube channel, Awesemo Odds, fantastic content, if I do say so myself, friends. Me and Eric doing serious work over there. Talk to me about Patrick Rodgers, boy. What? Who did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say like Matt Kuchar or something, and I was not going to be able to talk to you the rest of the show. I don't know, because you like pain. Like that's
but that's too much. That's too much pain.
Okay, well, good. Patrick Rodgers, I'm fine with. I like Patrick Rodgers here. I think that's an all right spot to go to. He's going to have some of these pops. Didn't he win one of the events? He won one of them, right?
I don't know if he's ever won. He's been runner-up.
No, I'm saying in the Korn Ferry Tour finals.
Oh, yeah.
I think he won one of them.
Okay, let's take a look. Patrick Rodgers. Again, what I was drawn to, I don't know.
No, he didn't. No, it wasn't him. It was Svensson that won one of them. I was thinking of Adam Svensson.
Blend. The thing I like about Rodgers, again, I'm going to have a theme here. He has gained in 7 of his last 8 off the tee. That's been a one consistent club. What does he pair that with? A crazy hot putter at times. He's gained 6 strokes putting twice in the last 2 months. He can do that randomly. He comes out of nowhere. When you get that, you get some serious showings. Now, the miscut equity is through the roof. But for big time upside, I think as a flyer, that's the type of guy you can leverage an entire lineup with, because who's going to play Patrick Rodgers?
Well, 8.2% of the field.
That's surprising to me.
It's surprising to me too. I didn't expect that number to be that high when I looked at him here. Once you said the name, I think that's probably a little high from what I would want, but I'm going to have a little bit. I think I'm going to have a little bit of a scatter shot with everybody not named Matt Kuchar, I think. Oh man, I accidentally have Matt Kuchar in my pool. We're going to remove him as we're talking. Man, I just saved myself 4% of lineups. That was exciting.
All right, I'm going to throw a couple names out at you from chat. Charles Howell is a guy that, he's done some work early in the year in California before. Chris Ventura, that is from the top rope, man. That is going to lead us. Let's talk about Charles Howell, and then we'll get egregious.
Well, both of them, Oklahoma State, I believe. Good old Ventura, Christopher definitely. Ventura. Yeah, whatever with him. I can't make a case for Christopher Ventura. I can make a case for Charles Howell III, who, again, I think he's made a living off of playing some of these fall event and coming into the spring. He always seems to play well out here in California, in Southern Cal specifically, at Rivieras. He's had some good showings and such, but I don't mind getting to some Charles Howell. Our projections really liked Charles Howell. When I was crunching without adding anything and trying to like piece together what other people might be doing or what our projections was leaning toward, I was getting a crazy amount of Charles Howell III. So I think if you're using our projections, he's probably going to be somebody who tweaks in a little bit more. I'm probably going to be a little bit lighter than what is he, around 5% there, but I totally understand him. You can put him in the bucket of guys in large field events. I wouldn't want to make him a 3 max or anything where I was like making a large stand on him, but I get it.
Yeah, he's in the same price range as Harry Higgs, who chat just asked about. Higgs has got to be better with his irons. He's been good off the tee and good with the putter, and that is a good combination, as I've talked about. But, you know, I don't know about that. I got Alex Smalley. Again, he's a type of guy we just don't know. I mean, he's shown a little. I played him actually at the Flat Min a couple months ago, and he was fine. But now he's 7. He's up against real life players, and I think he's going to be pretty good. But you just don't know.
I made my Jalen Waddle NFL you don't really know comparison when it came to Alex Smalley. It sounded about right. Okay. I didn't want to say like Devonta Smith, somebody that I know is going to be a good wide receiver. Don't at me with that one. But I'm just saying like Jalen Waddle. Tell me that you would understand what his profile was going to be with the Miami Dolphins coming into this season. You can't. I have no idea what to make of a guy like Jalen Waddle. I have no idea what to make of a guy who's been showing up playing really well on the Corn Ferry, but hasn't necessarily chased the Monday cues and we haven't really seen him. And I'm willing to be taking more shots. And, you know, he's under 4, like he's at 4%. He played well at the Wyndham. You know, the relative low amount of times that we have seen him here, the Wyndham, he played decently well, made the cut at the John Deere as well. The only time that he's missed a cut in the last however long was the Phoenix Open. And then it's all the way back to 2017 before we saw him at a PGA Tour event. So, I mean, there's just so many unknowns, but I do know that that's a pretty decent little run that he had there in 2021, his 3 events, 3 made cuts. I feel pretty confident that at least that isn't going to bury you. And I think that there's definitely some upside there from what we saw at the Corn Ferry Tour Finals.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there are names down here. I think it's just about organizing 2 more guys, and then we're going to go sub 7. Doc Redman and Hudson Swafford. For me, it would be Redman just because I trust his long-term form a little more. Swafford banked a win, and that did get him a lot of breathing room. Redman's been awful, but maybe he hits the hard reset. I'll tell you what, both of them I expect not to be super popular this week.
Yeah, neither one of them are going to be popular whatsoever.
Yeah, wow. And Swafford, though, is right now getting a little ownership. That makes me like him even less. That's
9.1%. Yeah, we're not going to get to 9.1% of him. I mean, part of that is the dude balled out. He almost snuck himself into the Tour Championship. Like he played really well at the end of the season. And I think people see the recent form and want to go there. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, I'm not going to chase that. All right. So we've talked, you know, John Rahm would be a great luxury to have. Maybe you go balance with Kevin Na, but regardless, you probably have to look at this 6K range. Yeah. There are names. There's a lot of guys down here. Some of them are going to play well. How do you decipher who that might be? Are there names that stick out to you that you want to get to?
So I made fun of the Utah Championship the other day, but then I started researching a little bit into like some of these guys. You have 25 total rookies that are in the field here this week out of the 29 total that you're getting new to the PGA Tour. Joshua Creel won the Utah Championship. He's 6,700. Has been playing a lot better here of late the last couple of months. He was a D2 player at where did he go to school? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know that he was like the D2 champion and whatever else. And just a guy that's shown up, showed some class in the Midwest. Some from South Dakota, Wyoming, I believe was his home state. And I've heard some people really talk highly of his golf game. So I added him into the pool. It's strange to see that he was actually getting some ownership. 3.6% we're kind of projecting him for, but sounds like he could be a stick, and I'm willing to take some shots because I'm willing to take some shots on just about anybody under 7K to make John Rahm work.
See, the nice thing sub 7 is ownership becomes less and less relevant. Everyone's going to be relatively low owned. So I'm going to just choose some guys that, to me, I just know. I feel a little more comfortable with Kyle Stanley's of the world, Peter Uline's of the world. Trey Mullinax is a guy 11-1 for a top 20. I think that's a pretty good bet on him. This is someone that he is a top 10 in a major. It was a while ago, but he can really score. He can get crazy hot with the putter. And you mentioned the freak injury derailed everything with him. I think he's going to be just fine if he works back and is healthy, and we hope that he is. He was a good player. So I like him. How low do you have to go, though? I mean, are you looking at like the flat min? I think that's probably a little much.
Okay, so I mean, we had the Wu and Sue conversation the other day. We got Brandon Wu, Dylan Wu, Justin Sue. Those are all guys that were kind of circled from Jason. And, you know, if you're going to play some large field stuff, they're all, I mean, Brandon Wu's pulling 2.7%. The other two are sub 1%. I'd be fine getting to a little bit of that. I'm playing some Bo Hostler because I don't like myself and I want to inflict pain and, you know, I want to feel to hurt. So we're going to go play a little bit of him. There's that's kind of my makeup. Kurt Kitayama, I have like 2% of because it's just a straight up FOMO thing. So I'm playing him with some more popular builds. And then, you know, just to round it all out, because if those plays weren't exciting enough, there's where did he even go? He was 6,100. He was like the only guy that I was going to play down here. I don't even remember who it was right now. So I'm not going to just make it up on the fly. Go ahead.
I think if I had to give one random player down there, it would be Nick Hardy. I've played him a little bit. He's got some talent. I don't think it's really necessary to dip that low. There's just a lot of names that you mentioned in the mid sixes of guys that got some reps and maybe they struggled, but they've got some pedigree. They've got some talent. In Sue and Dylan Wu, JJ Spawn is there. Augustine had some big pedigree out of Georgia Tech. Didn't really string it together. Mark Hubbard's probably the safest option. Guy just kind of makes cuts.
The safest guy out of the unsafe group.
That's the thing. That's a great point, though, because at the end of the day, I would rather incur more miscut equity for some potential placement points. Because when you're trying to win a large field tournament, yes, 6-6 is important. But at a field like this, you need guys that are going to be able to score and get streaks and do some real things. Haggie's interesting. I don't mind that. He's a guy that can really tone it down off the tee, but when he wants to, he can unleash. So
he's just crazy long. And we saw him shoot that crazy final round. I believe it was the Honda where he put himself in the mix.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I can't give any Bill Haas love because Nick Hardy is in the same price range. And we're just warming up. I know everyone wants crazy psycho Jazzraz takes. They'll come. I'll give you a hot take. Wyoming's going to mop the floor in college football this week. Just a little taste of what we've been talking about over on Betting You, the podcast with me and Matt Kajeski. But this is golf. Anything else? Let's talk a little lineup construction before we give our hot takes. Eric, it sounds like if you build enough lineups, I totally get why you'd say this. You've got the ROM builds that maybe will dip, but you're also comfortable with some lineups that go very balanced and you really attack that 8K range.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it is I'm going to be betting Maverick McNeely. I like Maverick McNeely a lot here in this spot, and that's just going to be one of those things where it's like, if that doesn't work out for me, so be it. But that upper 8K range, I'm just kind of living in. If they don't play well, I'm probably going to have a bad week because I'm going to have a ton of ROM. I think it's easier to pair him with these upper eights. It's really hard to make two 10Ks mix when it's the John Rahm play. If you can, best of luck to you because you're going to have some real Hagrid back ends of those lineups. But upper eights, if you want to start some lineups there, that's going to be, I think I'm going to have a 3 max where I'm going to have 2 with ROM. So I'll do 2 of 3 with him. And then I'm going to have another one where I'm just starting with Griot. I'm going to go Griot, Hoffman, McNeely, and try to see what happens.
I do think this is a unique tournament in the sense that you have to answer the ROM question first with every lineup. Like, are you playing him? Yes. Okay. That's a different, treat it like a Goosebumps novel. You know, those books where it's choose your...
God, yeah. Those were good times.
Yeah. So you're going to decide what path you're going to take, either the ROM path and you build accordingly, or no, and then you build completely different.
I have my nerdy take for what that is to me. It's Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars, maybe the greatest video game of all time.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll take your word for it.
Producer Tyler I think he likes me a lot more now. No. Okay, never mind.
Okay. Well, you know what? We've pulled out all the stops here. This leads us into the last topic, which is the best topic. Chat, hot take time. It's a clean slate. We do the Men in Black thing on this show. All the hot takes that we've given in the previous year are irrelevant. It's time to start. We're 0-0, Eric. I'm going to give you the choice. You won the coin toss. You want to defer or do you want to go first here?
I mean, I've been saving. So my new thing that I've been doing with you is I just don't give my hot take during the show. I avoid talking about the person, and we successfully did not talk about this person. So I'm going to give it to you first.
I wonder, is it Adam Shank?
No, it is not.
Okay, good. Well, I didn't plan that. You're very mischievous, and that worked nicely for you. I alluded to this guy. This isn't a crazy hot take, but listen, anytime you're telling me I'm getting double digit to 1 on a bet, it's a serious payoff if you hit it. Plus 1100, Trey Mullinax, top 20. I just want to dig into this a little more. Again, he's had some really bad form at times, and part of that I think is forgiving because he just wasn't healthy. He was working through some things. He was runner-up at the Corn Ferry Championship the last time out. This is a guy that Boise top 20, a lot of bad finishes there, but he's done it on the tour. This is someone that's been in the hunt. He was runner-up at Valero. He was 6th at St. Jude's, now 8th at Valspar. These events, this is all 2018 results, so maybe he's not that player. I tend to think that he will regain that form. I'm going to buy him in the swing season on a macro. If you're going to give me 11 to 1 for a top 20, I will gladly take that. I think he's sneaky this week.
I love that play. My winner of the golf tournament. So my hot take is it's not going to be one John Rahm, and I'm going to bet this guy. So this number has been bet to crap, and I might be the only person who's been doing it. It started at 1,400, so plus 1,400. It's now down to plus 1,000 here on a top 5. And my pick for the winner of the golf tournament is Pat Perez. So Pat Perez has been trending up big time here. Probably the sneakiest form in terms of anybody in the field for their recent form. You have some massive miscut equity. So Travelers, John Deere miscuts, but around those, he has 4 of those other 4 tournaments he made the cut, all top 16s in those spots. He's gained strokes putting in 10 of 11. Crazy hot with the irons as well. Gained strokes there, 10 of 11. Off the tee, if it's not going to be as penal as what I think it's going to be, I think, people are going to miss a lot of fairways out here, but the rough isn't very penal. I think Pat Perez gets crazy, crazy hot out here. Top 5. Now it's at plus 1,000. I probably don't want to go there, but 60 to 1, there's a 65 to 1 lingering out there. Go hit that because I think Pat Perez has a big week.
9th here last year. It's a guy that, again, he knows what he's doing out there. Miscut equity is high. I backed him heavily one time in Bermuda. He made the cut and he still left the island. That was a bad time. But I assume here he'll be fine. He'll stay in America for all 4 rounds. And yeah, he's got the putting and irons. And that's what I love about this show, Eric. You stuck to your theme, irons and putting. I kind of stuck to mine, off the tee and putting. So we want our guys to convert these birdies. Chat, it's been real as always. It's going to be a great, great season here. We've got so much excitement. And of course, me and Eric will be covering a ton of sports from college football to the NFL to baseball, whatever it is, we've got you covered. But don't forget about PGA. It's going to be a lot of money out there in the swing season if you take advantage. So get in Slack, ask us questions. You can follow us on Twitter. And of course, we love you supporting the shows. Hit that like button on your way out. Good luck this week, my friends. We will be back next week, talk a little Ryder Cup. Check the schedule. We'll keep you informed. But let's start the season off on the right note here. Good luck, and we'll talk to you guys soon.